You're born in a litter of 5 in a drainage ditch behind a Moscow rail yard. November. The kind of cold that gets into the ground and stays there. Your mother is thin. She feeds you anyway. You learn the rules of the street early. Where to sleep without being kicked. Which vendors throw scraps and which throw stones. You learn to read humans the way only a stray can. Not by their words, but by the weight of their footsteps, the tension in their shoulders, the particular stillness that comes right before something bad happens. You survive your first winter, then your second. You're small, and you're fast, and you're smart in the way that only hardship manufactures. This city doesn't love you, but you understand it completely. The gutters, the alleyways, the warm grate near the Komsomolskaya metro station where 3 of you sleep in rotation. This is your world. It's brutal and cold and completely yours. Then one morning, they catch you. Not cruelly. That's what's disorienting. Men in coats, patient men, with a wire loop on a long pole and a kind of professional efficiency that carries no malice. You snap and twist, but it doesn't matter. You're placed in a wooden crate, driven somewhere loud and institutional, and when the door opens again, everything is white walls and artificial light and the smell of antiseptic. There are other dogs here. You can feel their confusion too. The scientists prefer street dogs. This is something you'd find remarkable if someone translated it for you. Stray dogs, they've determined, are calmer under stress than bred dogs. They've already survived everything. You are selected not in spite of what you've endured, but because of it. Your name, before this, was nothing. A sound you learned to ignore. Now they call you Laika. It means barker in Russian, though you learn quickly that barking here accomplishes nothing. You adapt. You always adapt. The training begins. You're placed in progressively smaller boxes. First, the size of a kennel. Then, the size of a cabinet. Then something barely larger than your own body. You stay in these boxes for days at a time, learning to exist in stillness, learning to compress yourself, not just physically, but in some other way that doesn't have a name. You eat from tubes. You learn to eliminate in confinement. You breathe recycled air and you wait, and somehow, you don't break. The centrifuge is the worst part. A machine that spins you until the world becomes only pressure and confusion, until your heart hammers at rates that make the technicians write numbers in their notebooks. You endure it. Your vitals are remarkable, they say. You can hear the approval in their voices even if you can't parse the words. One scientist brings you home on weekends. She has children who play with you on the apartment floor. She feeds you real food, not the measured rations of the facility, but actual food, shared from an actual table, with the warmth of a family around you. You sleep at the foot of her bed. These are the best days. Not because they're comfortable, though they are. Because in those rooms, you're not a subject. You're just a dog. She cries when she brings you back on Sundays. You notice this. You don't understand it. You lick her hand and she holds your face in both of hers and looks at you for a long time. You don't know what she knows. The capsule is called Sputnik 2. It's small. Smaller than the smallest box they trained you in. But you've learned smallness. You curl into it the way you once curled against your littermates in that drainage ditch, that same ancient compression, body conserving heat and space and something harder to name. They attach the sensors to your body, instruments to measure your heart rate, your blood pressure, your breathing. Wires taped to your fur. The data you generate will matter enormously to people who will never meet you. It will help answer questions about whether living creatures can survive the conditions of orbit, whether the body can tolerate weightlessness, whether a future of human spaceflight is even possible. You are, in the technical language of the people who designed this mission, a biological payload. You are also just a dog who wants to go back to the apartment where the children played with you on the floor. November 3rd, 1957. The noise is incomprehensible. Not like anything your ears were built to process. The vibration enters through your paws first, then your spine. Then your entire skeleton becomes a tuning fork for a sound that isn't really a sound anymore. It's pure force, pure intention. The planet physically rejecting something that wants to leave it. You are that something. The G-forces pin you. Your heart rate, later measured by the instruments on your body, triples. The scientists watching the telemetry note your distress, but they also note that you don't break. You endure it the way you endured the centrifuge, the way you endured the boxes, The way you endured every November of your street life. And then, in an instant that must feel like the world ending, silence. Weightlessness. You float against your harness, and the noise is gone, and through the small porthole there is something no living creature with eyes has ever seen before. Not a horizon, not a sky. Something else entirely. A curve. The edge of everything. Blue turning to black at a border so clean it looks painted. You orbit the Earth. Once. Twice. The planet turns below you. Its oceans, its clouds, its mountain ranges, its cities full of people who don't yet know what weightlessness feels like. You are the first living creature to see it from here. You are the only one. The capsule begins to warm. This is expected. The thermal regulation system, the engineers knew this. They built you a journey with no return, and they wrapped that decision in technical language and historical necessity and the great forward momentum of a space race between nations. And there in the warm capsule, floating in your harness at the edge of the world, you breathe faster. Your telemetry transmits for 7 hours. Then the signals become irregular. Then they stop. Back on Earth, the newspapers are extraordinary. Your photograph on the front pages of every major publication in the world. A small, alert face looking sideways at a camera, ears up, expression neutral, utterly unaware of what was coming. Children write letters. Scientists raise glasses. You are called a hero, a pioneer, a martyr, a tragedy. Governments and ethicists argue about what you were and what was done to you and what it meant. Monuments will eventually be built. Debates will never fully end. She, the scientist who took you home on weekends, speaks about you in interviews decades later, after the full truth of the mission becomes public. She says she wanted to do something kind for you in those final days, that she has never quite gotten over it. And you never understood any of it. The politics, the history, the significance. You didn't know you were carrying the future in your small body. You didn't know that the data from your heartbeat would make it possible for humans to eventually leave this planet and come back again. You knew the drain ditch. You knew the metro grate. You knew the apartment with the children and the warmth. You knew what it felt like when someone held your face in both their hands and looked at you like you mattered. You knew the silence above the world and the blue edge of everything. And then, you knew nothing at all. And the earth kept turning beneath you, quietly, carrying everything you ever were.